In 43 AD, Britain's southern shores saw 4 mighty Roman legions, 40,000 troops strong. This marked Rome's largest overseas deployment in a generation, and every soldier knew what awaited them. Every man remembered Rome's prior attempts. Caesar had come twice to this land. Caesar's failures were not due to lack of brilliance, but poor logistics for sustaining his gains. He had come to Britain without sufficient logistics to hold his territory. Those earlier ventures were merely raids, not true conquests. Emperor Claudius was determined not to replicate that error. He desperately required. Claudius yearned for a victory. However, between his invading forces and that ambition lay a wide tidal river, the Medway. This key battle often gets overlooked. Many people just skip ahead to the Colosseum or Julius Caesar. Yet, this river crossing in the English countryside in 43 AD stands as one of the clearest demonstrations precisely why. To grasp Claudius's desperate need for this conquest, one must first comprehend the type of ruler he truly was, or rather, how Rome's elite perceived him. Claudius came to power in 41 AD under entirely unforeseen circumstances. Curtin, following Caligula's assassination, then promptly proclaimed him emperor. He was no military general. He certainly wasn't a conqueror. Instead, he was a scholar, walking with a limp and stuttering as he spoke, consequently seen by the Senate. Therefore, Claudius resorted to a tactic common among insecure rulers throughout history whenever they needed to quickly prove their worth. He sought a winnable war, and Britain provided that solution. It was wealthy, outstanding business on Rome's agenda. A triumph there would not merely add a new province, but transform Claudius from a joke into a renowned conqueror. He gave command of the invasion to Aulus Plautius, a general known for his steady, disciplined and precise, which this mission urgently required. Honestly, this is the commander type I always find myself returning to. Not the generals who just charged ahead on raw instinct, but those who meticulously planned several. Plautius led 4 specific legions, the 2nd Augusta, the 9th Hispana, and the 14th Gemina, plus the 20th Valeria Victrix. Tens of thousands of auxiliary troops marched alongside them. The entire force numbered around 40,000 men. However, Caratacus and Togodumnus, 2 brothers spearheading the primary British resistance, had time to prepare. But their first critical mistake occurred before any Roman boot touched British ground. They anticipated the fleet would disembark at the nearest point along the narrow channel crossing. Instead, he disembarked at Richborough, on Kent's eastern coast. The Britons were unprepared. The landing was mostly unopposed. Rome successfully landed without an army arriving under enemy fire, suffering casualties before even forming ranks, expending energy fighting for a beachhead, begins its campaign already weakened and depleted. Rome made a clean landing, swiftly moving inland. In 2 initial skirmishes near river crossings south of the Medway, Roman legions decisively repelled the Britons. Yielded territory. They weren't completely routed, yet they weren't achieving victory either. This prompted a decision that superficially appeared strategically sound. The Medway was broad and tidal. Without a bridge, crossing it wasn't a simple wade, especially not with armor or in formation, let alone under enemy fire. The Britons understood this well. They possessed chariots. Numerical superiority on their home ground appeared like an impenetrable wall. Should Rome fail to cross, the entire campaign would stall, supply lines would lengthen, morale would decline, and Claudius, back in Rome, would encounter severe difficulties. The British believed the river acted as their shield. Medway. Rome's victory wasn't due to overwhelming numbers. They triumphed using a unique unit few have ever heard of, the Batavians. In my opinion, not the elephants Claudius brought for show, nor even the legions, but this relatively obscure auxiliary unit from the Rhine Delta. Consider other celebrated river crossings in ancient history. Caesar at the Rubicon, a symbolic yet shallow. Alexander's Hydaspes crossing against Porus was brilliant, but used boats and a storm for cover. Faced with water, every commander typically employs the same methods. Boats. Plautius, however, employed an alternative strategy. The Batavians originated from the Rhine Delta, roughly modern-day Netherlands. They were auxiliaries, not Roman citizens or legionaries, yet they trained with Rome. Their unique ability was swimming rivers fully geared, not wading, but swimming in formation with horses. I want you to truly reflect on that for a moment. Every other Plautius, conversely, saw a door precisely because he fully understood his unit's unique capabilities. This was not mere luck. This exemplifies true meticulous. And this specific part truly merits attention. Their mission involved not fighting the British warriors. Rather, it focused on targeting their horses, targeting their chariot horses. They imparted the tribal coalition speed, shock, plus the capacity to strike and withdraw before Roman formations could react. You neutralize the British defensive line. You transform a quick, mobile tribal force into a static defensive issue. Roman legions were designed to crush such static problems. The Batavians crossed, then targeted the chariot horses, freeing them, killing them, or driving. Precisely the sort of disorder that causes commanders to lose awareness of their flanks. While British attention diverted rearward, Roman forces under Flavius Vespasian and his brother Sabinus, the legions had crossed. However, the first day concluded without a clear Roman triumph. The British line held. Togodumnus was supposedly killed in the fray, though he retreated. Romans secured the far bank, but the British still maintained their defensive line. A two-day battle in 43 AD indicates something. This was no walkover. The British put up a fight. Rome held the far bank, but holding ground and winning a battle a distinct advantage they had secured. Plautius then advanced the full strength of his force across. The legions consolidated their bridgehead, strengthened their lines, and pressed forward. Vespasian, having spearheaded the crossing the day prior, he denied them any time to regroup or adjust positions. Wherever the Roman front advanced, he moved his troops more swiftly than the British could react. Their chariot horses were gone, and Togodumnus lay dead. The tribal coalition, always united more by shared urgency than cohesive command, began fracturing under coordinated pressure from various directions. Devoid of mobile flanking capabilities and their battlefield speed, the British found themselves. Their line collapsed. Caratacus fled westward. He continued to resist Rome for almost another decade, raiding, retreating, rebuilding. But at the Medway, his real chance to stop the invasion ended. The river, intended as an unbreachable, effectively concluded. Plautius then performed an action often overlooked and insufficiently discussed. He halted. The road to Camulodunum, today's Colchester, was wide open. Momentum was present. Plautius had fought 2 full days, crossed kept advancing, but he refrained. He halted the advance, sending word back to Rome. He then waited for Claudius. This is the specific moment. Most commanders, most people even, honestly lack this quality. Contrast his actions with what Napoleon did after Austerlitz. He relentlessly pushed. The army continued its advance due to its own force. Consider Pompey's actions, for instance, when he held Caesar contained at Dyrrhachium. Possessing the advantage, he couldn't resist. Plautius, however, was clearly different. Consider the immense challenge involved. As a general, you've accomplished the arduous task. Victorious army, simply so your emperor, who never fought during this campaign, could arrive to accept the surrender. That level of discipline eludes most commanders, and it's what I find most remarkable about the Romans. When they operated at their peak, they grasped the broader system they belonged to, merely winning the battle. Instead, his task was to achieve victory in a way that benefited the larger political situation. Claudius thus halted, held his position, and patiently awaited. No ego, no glory-seeking, just strict mission adherence right up to the finish. Upon his arrival, Claudius spent 16 days within Britain. He formally received the surrender from tribal chiefs. Actual tactics. Soon after, he departed, returning to Rome for his triumph. The Senate then granted him the title Britannicus. His son was granted the identical honor. Claudius celebrated the triumph. Plautius, Vespasian, and the Batavians achieved victory in the battle. But beneath all of this lies a key lesson, the one that truly matters. The British tribes were not weak. They boasted numbers, deep terrain knowledge, and warriors who had already contended with Romans previously, so they knew what to expect. Robust defensive location. Considering the situation on a superficial level, this campaign should have proven a far more challenging campaign. They weren't building a bridge under attack, nor did they delay for the British to advance. They dispatched the single unit in their whole army equipped to cross a tidal river, creating disorder even before the main legions reached the opposing bank. Niche expertise was deployed with precision at the opportune moment. I've discussed engagements where sheer passion and terrain nearly achieved an upset, such as Teutoburg. This defeat inflicted severe damage upon Rome. However, the Medway battle was different. Plautius ensured it never became a struggle of pure passion. He defined it as a logistics challenge. Instead, it occurs when your training is authentic, and your commander sufficiently trusts his troops to permit them to execute their intended roles. This is precisely why I frequently revisit Rome's history. And the self-control to employ them properly, they accomplished feats that remain sound military logic 2 millennia later. Britain continued as a Roman province for almost 4 centuries. It commenced with a 2-day river. Rome's victory at the Medway wasn't due to their larger size or greater courage. Their success came about because Plautius discovered. Should you wish to observe this identical principle in action, professional, disciplined units neutralizing a numerically stronger the teaching still applies. Consider subscribing for more tactical history that truly